I was up on the ladder that December evening, same as I'd been doing for 20 years, stringing lights along the roofline while my boy Tommy handed me the bulbs one at a time. 7 years old, red nose from the cold, breath coming out in little clouds. The pine smell from our Christmas tree was drifting out through the cracked window, mixing with the clean bite of winter air. Like this, Dad? Tommy held up a blue bulb. Perfect, buddy. I clipped it into place, the plastic clicking just right. That's when he asked it, simple as anything. Innocent as the kid was. Dad, why does Mom hide those big brown shoes in your closet? They're not yours. And my hand froze halfway to the next clip. Through the kitchen window, I could see Linda at the sink, coffee cup in her hand. The cup was shaking, actually shaking, coffee sloshing over the rim. I looked down at Tommy. Must be confused, buddy. But he wasn't, and I knew it. That night, after Tommy was asleep, I stood outside my own bedroom closet like a stranger in my own house. Linda's breathing was steady in the bed behind me, asleep or pretending to be. The clock on the nightstand said 11:17. I opened the door slow. The hinges gave their familiar creak, same sound they'd made for 30 years. My work boots sat right where I always left them, steel toes scuffed from crawling under houses, fixing junction boxes, running wire. Behind them, my old electrician coveralls hung on their hook. I moved the boots aside. There they were, pushed deep into the back corner, half hidden under the coveralls. Italian loafers. Brown leather so soft it felt like butter under my fingers. I picked one up, turned it over. Salvatore Ferragamo, the label said. Had to be $400, maybe more. Size 11. I wear a 10. I held it close. The cologne smell hit me, something expensive, something I'd never worn. Something that didn't belong in my closet, in my house, in my life. My hand started shaking. I set the shoe down, exactly where I'd found it, exactly the same angle, put my boots back, closed the door, stood there in the dark for I don't know how long. Linda's breathing stayed steady. I sat on the edge of the bed and waited for morning. Never did sleep. The kitchen was cold when I walked in at dawn. Linda was already at the coffee pot, her back to me. She'd slept in the guest room the last month or so, said I snored too loud. I hadn't questioned it. Found some shoes in my closet, I said, kept my voice level. Italian leather, size 11. Any idea whose they are? The coffee cup in her hand jerked. Liquid splashed on the counter, dark against the white tile. She didn't turn around for a second. When she did, her cheeks were flushed, throat working, like she was trying to swallow something that wouldn't go down. Oh, her voice came out too high. Those. I got them at a garage sale. For charity. Been meaning to drop them off. I watched her face, the flush spreading down her neck, her eyes darting from the cup to me to the floor. Charity, I said. Yeah, Goodwill. She grabbed a dishcloth, started wiping the spilled coffee with too much force. I'll take them today. Should have done it weeks ago. Right. I poured myself coffee. My hands were steadier than hers. Must have forgot. I've been busy. Defensive now. Tommy's Christmas program, the church bake sale, everything. It's fine, Linda. She stopped wiping, looked at me like she was trying to figure something out. I took my coffee and headed for the door. Frank? Her voice cracked a little. You're not mad? I turned back. She was gripping the counter edge, knuckles white. About shoes for charity? I said. Why would I be mad? I left before she could answer. At the electrical supply shop, Eddie took one look at me and frowned. We'd worked together 20 years, him running the place, me helping out part-time since I retired. He knew my face better than I knew it myself. You look like 10 miles of bad road, he said. Didn't sleep? Not much. I started stocking shelves, moving wire spools from the delivery boxes. Copper. 12 gauge. Same work I'd done 1,000 times. A customer came in, older guy I'd seen before, wanted 40 feet of Romex. I rang him up, gave him 20 back instead of 40. Had to recount. The customer looked at me funny. Eddie pulled me aside after. Frank, take the rest of the day. Go home. I'm fine. You just gave that man the wrong change. You never do that. He put his hand on my shoulder. Something going on? I wanted to tell him. Wanted to say my wife was lying to me about shoes in my closet, about cologne I'd never smelled before, about things I couldn't even voice yet. But the words wouldn't come. Just tired, I said. Then go sleep. I'll cover. I shook my head. Work helps, but it didn't. I dropped a box of wire nuts. Copper spools scattered across the floor, rolling in every direction. I knelt there picking them up, one by one, and couldn't remember why I was doing it. At lunch, I sat in my truck with a sandwich I couldn't eat, stared at my phone, thought about calling my daughter Sarah, thought about what I'd even say. Your stepmother's got men's shoes in my closet. Expensive ones. She lied about where they came from. Sarah would ask questions I couldn't answer, so I didn't call. When I got home that evening, I went straight to the closet. The shoes were gone, not moved, Gone. The space behind my boots was empty. Linda had taken them while I was at work, erased the evidence like it never existed. I stood there staring at that empty space for a long time. Down the hall, I could hear Linda and Tommy laughing about something. Dinner smells coming from the kitchen. Pot roast, maybe. Normal. Everything normal. Except the cologne smell was still faint in the closet. And my wife's hands had shaken when she lied. And I knew. I just knew. The next week, Linda changed. She started cooking again. My favorite pot roast with the carrots and potatoes the way I liked them. Hadn't made it in 8 months, maybe longer. The smell filled the house that evening, rich and savory, like old times. "Thought you deserved something special," she said, setting the plate in front of me. Her hand touched my shoulder as she passed. Tommy looked up from his chicken nuggets. "Smells good, Mom." "Your dad works hard." She smiled at me. Figured he needed some appreciation. I ate every bite. Wanted to believe the warmth in her voice. That night, she came to our bedroom instead of the guest room. First time in months, I won't detail it, but afterward, lying there in the dark with her head on my chest, I thought maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe Tommy really had seen some garage sale shoes. Maybe I'd let my imagination run wild. "I love you," she whispered. I wanted to say it back. The words stuck in my throat, but I pulled her closer. Maybe everything was fine. Christmas Eve, we went to the Baptist church, where we'd been going for years. The sanctuary was lit with candles, organ playing Silent Night while people filed into the pews. Linda held my hand during the hymns. Her perfume, something floral I'd bought her last year, mixed with the smell of candle wax and old wood. We sat in our usual spot, third pew from the front, Tommy between us. Pastor Jenkins preached about keeping faith through darkness. Linda squeezed my hand during a part about forgiveness. After the service, in the fellowship hall with coffee and cookies, Mrs. Patterson from the choir came over. "You two look so happy together," she said, touching Linda's arm. Linda leaned into me. "We're blessed." Bill Henderson, one of the deacons, shook my hand. "Good to see you looking well, Frank. Merry Christmas." On the drive home, Linda suggested we keep the curtains open, so everyone can see our Christmas tree lights. "You worked so hard on them." "Sure," I said. Pride swelled a little. I had done a good job with the lights this year. Tommy fell asleep in the back seat. I carried him in, Linda walking beside me. We tucked him into bed together, the way parents should. Standing in his doorway after, watching him sleep, Linda whispered, "We're lucky. You know that." I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. Christmas morning came early. Tommy's excited shout from the living room woke us at 7. Linda laughed, actually laughed, and grabbed my hand as we walked out to see him surrounded by presents under the tree. The smell of cinnamon rolls baking filled the house. Linda had gotten up even earlier to make them, my mother's old recipe she hadn't touched in years. "Open this one, Dad." Tommy handed me a package wrapped in snowman paper. Inside was a leather jacket. Expensive. The kind I'd looked at in stores but never bought because $300 seemed like too much for a coat. Linda watched my face. "You deserve it. Best man I know." My throat went tight. "Linda, this is—" "Hush." She kissed my cheek. "Merry Christmas." Tommy tore through his presents. A bicycle, remote control car, books and games. The living room filled with the sounds of wrapping paper and his laughter. Around 10, Sarah arrived with her husband Mark and their kids. 8 and 11, both excited to see their granddad. Sarah hugged me tight. "You and Linda seem really good," she said quietly. "Yeah, I meant it. We're good." We ate breakfast together, all of us around the table. Linda served the cinnamon rolls warm, butter melting into the sweet dough. Conversation and laughter bounced around the room. Tommy showed his cousins his new bicycle. Mark and I talked about his work, easy and comfortable. Sarah pulled out her phone. Picture time. Everyone together. We gathered around the tree, Linda's arm around my waist, Tommy in front of us grinning, Sarah's family on the other side. The camera clicked. "Perfect," Sarah said, showing us. "That's going on the Christmas card." After they left, Linda cleared the dishes, humming Christmas carols. I sat on the couch, watching her move through the kitchen, Tommy playing with his toys on the floor. This was my life. My family. Everything I'd built. The shoes in the closet felt like a dream. A bad dream. That morning light had burned away. That evening, Linda insisted we leave the curtains open. "Let's spread the Christmas cheer," she said, adjusting them wide. "Our lights are too pretty to hide." I didn't argue. Just sat beside her on the couch, her head on my shoulder, watching the colored lights twinkle outside. I'd been wrong about everything. Had to be. Tuesday nights were Elks Lodge. Had been for 8 years running. Fish fry at 7, cards after, home by 9:30. Linda knew the schedule down to the minute. That first Tuesday in January, the temperature dropped to 8 below with the wind chill. Polar vortex, the news called it. The kind of cold that made your lungs hurt just breathing. I scraped ice off my truck windows for 10 minutes before the defroster could even start helping. The lodge was warm, though, familiar. Jerry and Bob and the other guys already at our regular table, plates of fried cod and coleslaw in front of them, the smell of hot oil and coffee. Talk about the Colts, about Jerry's granddaughter getting into Purdue, about whether we'd get more snow before the week was out. Normal. Everything normal. My phone rang at 8:45. Tommy's name on the screen. Dad? His voice was small, scared. The furnace made a weird noise. My heart kicked. What kind of noise, buddy? Like banging. It was loud. I'm scared. Where's Mom? Downstairs. She said it's fine, but it sounded bad. I was already standing, grabbing my coat. I'm coming home. 10 minutes, okay? You're safe. Just stay in your room. Jerry looked up. Everything all right? Furnace acting up. Tommy's worried. I pulled my keys out. See you next week. The drive home, my hands gripped the wheel tight. Not because of Tommy. Furnaces make noise sometimes, especially in cold like this. But because something in my gut was twisting, some instinct I couldn't name. I turned onto my street at 9 exactly. 30 minutes early, the silver Lexus was in my driveway. My foot hit the brake without thinking. The truck slid a little on the ice before stopping. I sat there in the middle of the street, engine idling, heater blasting hot air that suddenly felt like it couldn't warm me at all. The car was expensive, newer, not a vehicle from our neighborhood, where most people drove 10-year-old pickups and sedans held together with rust and prayer. I pulled forward slow, parked on the street instead of pulling in behind it. The Lexus had dealer plates. Immaculate paint job even in the salt and slush of an Indiana winter. Through my living room window, those curtains Linda insisted we keep open, I could see everything. My wife was on our couch. The couch I'd bought used 15 years ago, reupholstered myself. She held a wine glass, my wedding crystal, the set we got from her aunt, the one we only use for special occasions. Red wine, catching the light. A man sat beside her. Younger than me, 50 maybe, dark hair going gray at the temples. Expensive sweater, the kind you see in catalogs. Fit, like he spent time at a gym. Linda's hand was on his knee. They were laughing. Her head thrown back, mouth open. The man said something and she swatted his arm, playful, intimate. The way she used to touch me when we were first married. My Christmas lights, the ones I'd spent 2 days hanging, the tradition Tommy loved, cast colored shadows through the window. Red and green and blue playing across my wife and this stranger in my living room, drinking from my wedding crystal. I couldn't move. The truck engine rumbled underneath me. The heater fan whirred. Outside, the temperature was 8 below and dropping. But I sat there and watched. 1 minute, 2, 5. The man stood up, stretched, checked his watch, said something. Linda nodded, stood too. She walked with him toward the back of the house, toward the kitchen. Out of my line of sight, I waited. Counted to 60, twice. The back door opened. I could just see it from my angle. The man came out, collar turned up against the cold. No coat, just hurrying to his car. He got in the Lexus, started it, pulled out of my driveway. Gave a little wave toward the house as he passed. Linda was at the kitchen window. She waved back, blew a kiss. The Lexus turned the corner and was gone. I sat there 5 more minutes. Needed to. My legs felt like water. My hands were shaking now, white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Across the street, a curtain moved in Edna Morrison's window. She was 70-something, lived alone since her husband died. I saw her face for just a second before the curtain fell back. She'd been watching too. I made myself walk to the front door, made myself turn the knob, made myself step inside. Linda was in the kitchen. Back to me. The wine bottle was already put away. The glasses, both of them, were in the dishwasher. She jumped when I spoke. Who was here? She spun around. Her face was flushed, hair a little messed up. She ran her hand through it, smoothing it down. What? No one? Silver Lexus in the driveway. Her eyes went wide for a second, then narrowed. Oh, the furnace guy. Furnace guy, yeah. She turned on the faucet, started wiping down the already clean counter. Tommy called you? I told him not to bother you. The furnace was making noise. I called for a repair at 9 o'clock at night. Emergency service. She wasn't looking at me. He said it just needed adjustment, no charge. I walked past her, down the basement stairs. The furnace hummed along, steady and even, 72 degrees showing on the thermostat. I opened the panel, everything clean, no service stickers, no sign anyone had touched it in months. Back upstairs, Linda was still at the sink. Her hands gripped the counter edge. Furnace is fine, I said. Well, he fixed it. Huh? Frank, her voice went sharp, defensive. Why are you looking at me like that? A repairman came. He fixed the furnace. That's it. I should have pushed. Should have asked why a repairman drank wine in my living room. Why she blew him a kiss at the door. Why she was lying so badly I could see it in every line of her body. But I didn't. I walked past her, through the kitchen, out the back door to my workshop in the detached garage. "Frank?" she called after me. "Are you mad, Frank?" I closed the workshop door, turned the lock. The space was cold, colder than the house. My breath came out in clouds. I had a sleeping bag on a shelf, one I used for camping trips I hadn't taken in years. I pulled it down, spread it across the workbench. Through the small window, I could see our house. The kitchen light on. Linda's shadow moving back and forth. I lay down on the workbench, sleeping bag pulled up to my chin. The wood was hard underneath me. The cold seeped through everything. I didn't sleep. Just stared at the ceiling and smelled the sawdust and machine oil, and that faint cologne smell that was still in my nose, from the closet. The same cologne I'd smelled on that expensive leather. I knew who wore those shoes now, and I knew Linda had just lied to my face about why he'd been in our house, drinking wine with her, while I was at the lodge, on my regular Tuesday night. I knew, but knowing didn't tell me what to do about it. The workshop became my bedroom, my refuge, the place where I didn't have to see Linda's face or pretend everything was fine. 3 weeks went by like that. January settled in with gray skies and temperatures that never got above freezing. I'd wake on the workbench at 5, joints stiff from the cold and the hard wood, make instant coffee on the hot plate I'd dragged out there, head to the shop, come home. Straight to the workshop, lock the door. Linda would knock sometimes. "Frank, you coming in for dinner?" "Not hungry. Tommy wants to see you." That one got me. I'd go in for Tommy, help him with homework at the kitchen table, careful not to make eye contact with Linda, read him a story at bedtime. Then back to the workshop. My work shirt started hanging loose. Belt had to go in another notch. Eddie mentioned it twice before he stopped asking. The ice storm hit mid-January, freezing rain that coated everything in a shell of crystal. Power lines sagged. Tree branches snapped under the weight. The shop closed early, too dangerous for customers to be out. I got home to find Linda's car iced over in the driveway. She called from inside the house. "Frank, can you get my scraper? I need to go to the store before it gets worse." So I grabbed the scraper from the floor of her passenger seat. That's when I saw the manila folder underneath it, corners sticking out from under the mat. My hands were already numb from the cold. I opened the folder anyway. Property deed documents. Draft papers with an attorney's letterhead from the county seat. I recognized the address, my house, my father's house. The one he'd bought in 1954, worked 2 jobs to keep, left to me when he died. Current owner, Franklin Sullivan. Proposed addition, Linda Harrison Sullivan. The papers were dated 2 weeks ago. Someone had paper-clipped a business card to them. Derek Chen, senior mortgage broker, Regional Bank. I stood there while ice pellets pinged against the windshield. My hands shook, and not from the cold. She wanted her name on the deed. On my father's house? The house I'd spent 30 years maintaining, rewiring, rebuilding. The house that was supposed to go to Tommy someday. I took out my phone, photographed every page, then put the folder back exactly where I'd found it. That night, Tommy came out to the workshop. I heard his small knock over the sound of sleet hitting the roof. "Come in, buddy." He climbed up on the workbench beside me, coat still on, breath making clouds. "Dad, why do you sleep out here?" "Just working on things." "Mom says you're mad at her." I looked at my boy. 7 years old, caught between parents he couldn't understand. "I'm not mad at you, Tommy. You know that, right?" "Yeah." He picked at a wood shaving on the bench. "Dad? What, buddy?" "Why does Mom talk on her phone so much when you're at the lodge?" My stomach dropped. "She does?" "Uh-huh, every Tuesday. She giggles a lot." "And—" He stopped, like he wasn't sure he should say more. "And what?" "There's a man who brings her flowers sometimes. Mr. Derek. He's nice, tall." The name hit me like a fist. Derek. The name on the business card. "How many times has he come, Tommy?" Tommy counted on his fingers. Small hands, still a child's hands. "Lots. Since summer, I think. He always comes on Tuesdays." "Since summer. 6 months. Maybe more." "It's okay, buddy." I had to work to keep my voice steady. That's Mom's friend." "She said not to tell you." "What?" "She said it's a secret, just between her and me." Tommy looked worried now. "But secrets are bad. My teacher says secrets that make you feel funny are bad secrets." I pulled him close. He was shivering. "You didn't do anything wrong, okay? You can always tell me things." "Even secrets?" "Especially secrets." After I walked him back to the house, I stood in the workshop and tried to breathe, tried to think, tried to make sense of it. Since summer, every Tuesday, while I was at the lodge with Jerry and Bob, eating fried fish and playing cards, a man named Derek Chen had been coming to my house, bringing my wife flowers, being nice to my son, and coaching her to steal my father's house. Saturday morning, I needed furnace filters. Routine errand. Normal life, pretending to be normal. Denny's hardware store was quiet. Denny himself was at the counter, 58 and red-faced, known everyone in town for 30 years. Frank? He nodded, then with an odd emphasis, how's Linda? Fine. The teenage clerk behind him, some kid I didn't know, smirked. Actually smirked, like I'd said something funny. Good, good. Denny wouldn't meet my eyes. Filters are in aisle 3. I left without the filters, sat in my truck in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel. They knew. Denny knew. The kid knew. Probably half the damn town knew. Sunday, I made myself go to church, partly for Tommy, partly because I needed something. I didn't know what. Linda was already there when we arrived. Front pew, sitting between Mrs. Patterson and another woman from the choir. I saw her dabbing her eyes with a tissue before we even sat down. I took a seat in the back. Tommy stayed with me. We stood for hymns I couldn't hear over the blood rushing in my ears. Pastor Jenkins preached about bearing one another's burdens. During prayer requests, someone asked for prayers for marriages in crisis. Linda's shoulders shook. At the coffee hour after, I watched from the corner, Linda surrounded by women touching her arm, speaking in low, concerned voices. "We're praying for you both," Mrs. Patterson said, loud enough for me to hear. "I just don't know what's wrong," Linda's voice cracked. "He won't talk to me. He's sleeping in the workshop. I'm so worried about him." Another woman, younger, sympathetic. "Men go through things at that age." Bill Henderson approached me with a cup of coffee I didn't want. "How are you, Frank?" His voice was careful, pitying. "Fine. If you need to talk, pastor's available." Marriage counseling. I left. Took Tommy and left. Couldn't stand another second of watching my wife play the concerned spouse while half the congregation looked at me like I was the problem. In the truck, Tommy asked, "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" "I don't know, buddy." "So Tyler's parents got divorced. He said it's not so bad." I didn't have an answer for that. That night, after Tommy was asleep, I opened my laptop in the workshop, typed Derek Chen's name into Google. LinkedIn profile popped up first. Professional photo, suit and tie, confident smile. Senior mortgage broker, regional bank. 25 years experience. Specialization in estate planning and property restructuring. Estate planning. Property restructuring. The words made my hands shake. Facebook, not private. Recent divorce listed. Second marriage, ended 2018. Scrolled back. First marriage ended 2010. Both wives older than him. Searched public records. Both divorces cited infidelity. I sat there looking at his picture for a long time. Younger than me by 12 years. Fit, hair still mostly dark. The kind of man who wore expensive cologne and $400 shoes. The kind of man who knew exactly how to coach a woman into adding her name to her husband's property deed. My father's voice echoed in my head. Sitting on this same workbench 20 years ago, terminal cancer, but still teaching me how to plane wood smooth. "This house is yours, son. Keep it in the family. It's all I gotta leave you, but it's paid for. It's solid. Don't ever let anyone take it." I looked at the quitclaim deed photos on my phone. Looked at Derek Chen's professional smile on the screen. Looked at the timeline Tommy had accidentally given me since summer, every Tuesday, bringing flowers. Coaching secrets. This wasn't an affair. Not really. This was theft. Professional, calculated theft wrapped up in romance so I wouldn't see it coming. And I'd been sleeping in my workshop, losing 20 pounds, while everyone in town watched me become the fool who didn't know his wife was being stolen along with his inheritance. I printed Derek's photo, pinned it to the wall above my workbench. Now I knew what he looked like, knew his profession, knew his pattern, but knowing and doing something about it, those were two different things. And I was 64 years old, exhausted, and had no idea what to do next. 3 more weeks passed. February came in gray and cold, the kind of weather that makes you forget the sun ever existed. I stopped going to the shop, told Eddie I needed time. He didn't argue, just said the door was open when I was ready. My routine became simple. Wake at 5 in the workshop. Instant coffee that tasted like dirt. Stare at Derek Chen's photo on the wall. Wait until I heard Linda leave for whatever errands she invented. Go inside for a shower. Back to the workshop. The sleeping bag wasn't enough anymore. I'd added an old blanket, but the cold seeped through everything. My back ached from the hard workbench. Didn't matter. The house felt more dangerous than the cold. Tommy knocked every evening around 6. "Dad, Mom made spaghetti. You coming in?" "Not hungry, buddy. You never eat with us anymore." Just got a lot on my mind." One night, he stood at the workshop door for a long time after I said no. I could see his shadow under the gap, his small feet in the light from the house. Finally, he walked away. I was failing him. I knew it. But I couldn't make myself sit at that table with her. Couldn't pretend. My work shirts hung on me like sacks now. 20 pounds gone, maybe more. I'd stopped weighing myself. Stopped looking in mirrors. The face that looked back wasn't mine anymore. Gray, hollow, old in a way that had nothing to do with my 64 years. Sunday came again. I made myself go to church. For Tommy, that's what I told myself. Linda was already in the front pew when we arrived. She'd gotten there early, I realized. Positioned herself where everyone could see her. Tissue already in her hand. Tommy sat with her. I took my spot in the back. Pastor Jenkins preached about endurance through trials, about faith tested and refined. The words washed over me without meaning. All I could see was the back of Linda's head, the way she leaned toward Mrs. Patterson during the hymns accepting comfort. After the service, I got my coffee and stood in the corner of the fellowship hall. Watched. Linda was surrounded. 4 women, maybe 5, touching her arms, speaking in those low tones reserved for tragedy and scandal. I caught pieces of it. So worried about him, I won't even talk to me. Sleeping in that workshop. Can you imagine, Mrs. Patterson, loud enough for half the room? Have you thought about counseling? Linda dabbed her eyes. Real tears. Or a good performance. I couldn't tell anymore. I've tried everything. He just shuts me out. I don't know what I did wrong. Bill Henderson appeared at my elbow with a cup of coffee. Frank, good to see you. His voice had that careful quality, the same tone people use at funerals. Bill, listen, if you need someone to talk to, he glanced toward Linda, then back to me. Pastor offers marriage counseling. Might help. I'm fine. You don't look fine, brother. You look... He stopped, cleared his throat. Just want you to know the church is here for you. For both of you. I nodded, set down my untouched coffee. I need to get Tommy home. Walking out to the truck, I passed 2 men standing by their vehicles. Didn't know them well. Deacons, maybe. Their conversation stopped when I got close, then resumed when they thought I was out of earshot. Sleeping in his shop for what? A month now? Heard it's some kind of breakdown. Poor Linda. She's trying so hard. I sat in my truck waiting for Tommy, hands gripping the wheel. Everyone had decided. Decided I was the problem, decided Linda was the victim, decided I was having some kind of midlife crisis at 64, falling apart for no good reason, and I couldn't defend myself. Couldn't stand up in that fellowship hall and say my wife was planning to steal my father's house with help from her boyfriend. Couldn't produce the photos of the quitclaim deeds or explain about the cologne-scented shoes or repeat what my 7-year-old son had accidentally told me about Tuesday visitors. It would sound crazy, paranoid, like exactly the kind of thing a man having a breakdown would say. So I said nothing, and the town decided for me. That night, I couldn't stay in the workshop. Too cold, too quiet, too much time to think. I went to the house around 10. Tommy was asleep. Linda was in the guest room. I heard the TV through her door. I climbed into our bed, the one we used to share, and lay there in the dark. What was I doing? What was my plan? If I confronted Linda with the evidence, she'd deny it. She was good at lying. I'd learned that. If I filed for divorce, she'd fight for the house. The quitclaim deed attempt proved she wanted it. Wanted half of everything my father built, everything I'd maintained. And Tommy. In a divorce, she'd get partial custody, at least. Maybe more. She was his mother. The court wouldn't care that she'd been having an affair, that she'd coached our son to keep secrets, that she was actively trying to defraud me. I'd lose the house, lose Tommy half the time, maybe more, end up in some apartment, alone, while Derek Chin helped Linda sell my father's legacy out from under me. I was 64. Too old to start over, too tired to fight. Maybe I should just give up, sign the papers, let her have it all, walk away. The thought sat in my chest like a stone. I must have dozed off around midnight. The sound of a car door woke me at 2. Then footsteps on the porch. A key in the lock. I got up, walked to the living room. Sarah stood in the doorway, coat still on, purse over her shoulder. Her face went white when she saw me. Dad, Jesus, I called you 3 times. Phone's in the workshop. I was driving home from Amanda's recital, and I had this feeling I needed to check on you. She took a step closer, stopped. When's the last time you ate? I eat. Dad. Her voice cracked. Look at you. I didn't want to see what she was seeing, but I caught my reflection in the darkened TV screen. Gaunt face, hollow eyes, a ghost in my own house. Where's Tommy? She asked. Asleep. Linda? Guest room. Sarah set down her purse. I'm going to make you something to eat. Then you're going to tell me what the hell is going on. Sarah, it's 2 a.m. Mark knows where I am. She was already heading to the kitchen, turning on lights. Sit down. I sat. She made scrambled eggs and toast, set the plate in front of me, sat across the table and watched while I forced down bites that tasted like nothing. Now talk, she said. So I did. I told her about the shoes, about Christmas and Linda's performance, about the Tuesday I came home early and saw them through the window, about the quitclaim deeds in Linda's car, about Derek Chin, the mortgage broker with 2 ex-wives and a pattern, about Tommy's innocent observations, about the church gossip and the community turning against me. I told her everything. When I finished, Sarah's face had gone from shock to something harder, colder. "That bitch," she said quietly. I'd never heard her curse before, not like that. "She's trying to steal your house, Dad's house." Sarah stood up, pacing. "And she's using Tommy, making him keep secrets, teaching him to lie." "I know. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Didn't know how." "I'm your daughter." She stopped, leans on the table. "You raised me by yourself after Mom died. You think I'm going to let some woman steal everything from you?" "Sarah, I don't know what to do. We're going to fight." Her voice was steel. "We're going to get a lawyer, a private investigator. We're going to document everything, and we're going to protect you and Tommy. I have money. Mom's life insurance, remember? The money you put away for me, refused to touch even when things were tight?" Her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. "This is what it's for. Protecting you. I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm doing it." She pulled out her phone. "First thing Monday, I'm calling a PI. Then we're getting you a lawyer who specializes in this stuff. And you," she pointed at me, "you're going to move back into the guest room at my house until we figure this out. Tommy needs his dad alive and functioning, not starving himself to death in a workshop." Her voice softened. "Dad, please, let me help you." I looked at my daughter, 38 years old, mother of 2, math teacher, competent and strong, and everything good that came from my first marriage. And I realized I'd been so focused on what I was losing, I'd forgotten what I still had. "Okay," I whispered. She came around the table and hugged me. I held on to her and tried not to cry. "We're going to fix this," she said into my shoulder. "I promise." The next morning, I was out front shoveling the driveway. The snow had come overnight, 4 inches of heavy wet stuff. My back ached, and my arms felt weak, but the work kept my mind from spinning. That's when I saw Edna Morrison crossing the street. She was 71, lived alone in the Blue Ranch house across from mine. We'd been neighbors 15 years, but never more than friendly waves and the occasional borrowed tool. She walked slow, careful on the ice. Her hands were twisted with arthritis, swollen at the knuckles. "Frank," she said. Her breath came out in clouds. "I need to talk to you." I leaned on the shovel. "Morning, Edna." "I've been a coward." She pulled something from her coat pocket. A spiral notebook, the cheap kind you buy at the dollar store. Her hands shook. From the cold or nerves, I couldn't tell. "I should have told you months ago, but I kept thinking it wasn't my place. That maybe I was wrong about what I was seeing." She held out the notebook. I took it. The pages were marked with dates and times, all in neat handwriting. Teacher's handwriting. August 8th, silver Lexus, 7:15 to 9:10. August 15th, silver Lexus, 7:20 to 9:05. August 22nd, silver Lexus, 7:15 to 900. Every Tuesday, through September. October, November, December, January, 24 entries. "You documented this?" My voice came out rough. "I'm old-fashioned." Edna's eyes were wet. "Didn't want to meddle in marriage business. But watching you these past weeks," she gestured at me, at my hollow face and loose clothes. "I can't stay silent anymore. It's not right what she's doing. It's not right that I watched and said nothing. Edna, my husband had an affair 30 years ago. Brief thing. He ended it. We worked through it." Her twisted hands clenched. "But there was a neighbor who knew. She saw and never told me. When I finally found out, I asked her why she stayed quiet. She said it wasn't her place." Edna's voice hardened. "That woman and I never spoke again. I won't be her. I won't watch a good man suffer and do nothing." I looked at the calendar again. 6 months. Every Tuesday at 7:15, while I was at the lodge, eating fish and playing cards. "This is..." I couldn't finish. "It's evidence," Edna said. "If you need it, for whatever you decide to do. And Frank, I'll testify. In court, wherever, I'll tell the truth." She touched my arm with those painful, arthritic hands, then turned and walked carefully back across the street. I stood there holding her calendar while the snow started falling again. Sarah showed up an hour later with breakfast and takeout containers. She found me in the workshop, Edna's calendar spread out on the workbench. "Is that..." "Neighbor's been watching. Documented every visit for 6 months." Sarah picked up this notebook, flipped through it. Her face went hard. "Dad, this is exactly what we need. This is a witness." She pulled out her phone, started making calls. First was a private investigator. Mike Torrens, retired state trooper, ran his own operation out of an office in the county seat. Sarah had done her research, talked to lawyer friends, gotten recommendations. "Mr. Torrens, my name is Sarah. Yes, I need surveillance on my stepmother. No, I'm serious. This afternoon if possible." She put the phone on speaker. Tell me what we're dealing with, Torrance said. His voice was gravelly, professional. Sarah explained. The affair, the property deed scheme, Derek Chen, the neighbor's calendar, Tommy's innocent observations. How old's your father? Torrance asked. 64. And your stepmother? 48. A pause. I've seen this pattern before. Older man, paid off property, younger woman with financial motivations, usually involves someone coaching her. You said he's a mortgage broker? Derek Chen, regional bank. I'll look into him, his professional history, his personal history. If he's done this before, we'll find it. Torran's voice was steady, comforting even. Get me an address. I'll start surveillance today. Sarah gave him our address, Derek's workplace, everything we knew. After she hung up, she looked at me. We're building a case, Dad. A real case. 2 days later, Torrance called back. Sarah put him on speaker in the workshop. Found your guy. Derek Chen, 52, divorced twice, 2010 and 2018. Both ex-wives were older than him, both owned property, both divorces cited infidelity. Papers rustled on his end. I made contact with the first ex-wife. She was willing to talk. Said Derek coached her to add him to her house deed. Promised they'd sell it together, split the profit, start fresh somewhere new. Soon as the deed was changed, he started an affair with someone else. She barely kept her house in the divorce. My stomach turned. The second ex-wife filed a restraining order, Torrance continued. Derek wouldn't leave her alone after she caught him. Harassment mostly. Eventually, he moved on to the next target. He's a predator, Sarah said. Professional one. Uses his mortgage broker expertise to identify vulnerable targets, usually women in troubled marriages who own property. I've got surveillance photos from the past 48 hours. Your stepmother met him Tuesday evening. Same time window as the neighbor's calendar. I've got timestamps, multiple angles. He entered through the back door at 7:17, left at 9:03. Can you send those? Sarah asked. Already in your email. After we hung up, Sarah pulled up the photos on her phone. Derek Chen entering our back door. Linda visible through the kitchen window, smiling. Him leaving 2 hours later. We need a lawyer now, Sarah said. Someone who specializes in protecting assets in divorce, inheritance law. She'd already found one. Marianne Kemp. Solo practitioner, 59 years old, office above the hardware store downtown, specialized in family law with a focus on protecting inherited property. We met her that afternoon. Marianne's office was small but organized. Law books lined the walls. A photo on her desk showed a younger version of her standing next to an old man in overalls by a barn. My father, she said, seeing me look at it, lost his farm in a divorce. Married a woman when he was 65. She divorced him 2 years later, took half of everything his first wife helped him build. He died broke, and she sat down, opened a folder. I couldn't save him, but I can save you. I showed her everything. The photos of the quit claim deeds, Edna's calendar, the PI's surveillance, Derek's pattern with his ex-wives, Tommy's innocent testimony about Tuesday visitors and secrets. Marianne read through it all without speaking. When she finished, she looked at me. Mr. Sullivan, this is a clear-cut case of attempted fraud. Your house is inherited property. You owned it before the marriage. She has no legal claim to it. But if you'd signed those quitclaim deeds, she would have gained legal standing. I didn't sign anything. Good. That's very good. She made notes. We're going to file for divorce. You file first, which controls the narrative. We'll seek primary custody of your son based on parental alienation, using him as cover for an affair, coaching him to keep secrets from you. We'll protect your retirement accounts as premarital assets, and we'll make sure she doesn't get a dime of spousal support. Can we do that? With this evidence? Absolutely. Marianne leaned forward. The affair alone is grounds. The financial deception, trying to get her name on your property through fraud, that's even stronger. And using your child to facilitate the affair, a judge will be furious. How long will this take? If she fights, we go to trial. Could be 6 months, maybe more. But Mr. Sullivan, she tapped the evidence folder. With documentation like this, most attorneys would advise their client to settle immediately. Fighting would only make it worse for her. Sarah spoke up. What about Derek Chen? We'll send him a cease and desist and notify his employer of the professional ethics violation, having an affair with a client's wife, coaching property fraud. The bank won't like that. Marianne smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. He'll have his own problems to deal with. I sat there trying to process it all. After weeks of feeling helpless, paralyzed, defeated, suddenly there was a path forward, a plan. When do we start? I asked. I'll have papers ready in 2 weeks. In the meantime, the PI continues surveillance. We document everything. And you, she looked at me seriously. You take care of yourself. Eat, sleep in a bed, not a workshop. Your daughter tells me you've lost 20 pounds, closer to 25 now. Then gain it back. When we walk into that courtroom, or when her attorney reviews this evidence, I want her to see that you're strong, that she didn't break you. Marianne's voice was firm. Can you do that? I thought about my father's house, about Tommy, about Linda's lies, and Derek's pattern in 6 months of Tuesday visits. Yeah, I said, I can do that. 2 weeks later, Torrens delivered his full report. 60 pages, professional binder, tabs organizing everything. Surveillance photos of Derek entering our house, 5 different Tuesday nights, time-stamped. Video clips on a thumb drive. Bank records showing Linda's credit card I'd never known about. Paid monthly by Derek, $12,000, over 8 months. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry stores. Phone records took longer to get, but Sarah's lawyer got them. 847 calls and texts between Linda and Derek since last spring. Daily communication. Obsessive. I sat in Sarah's dining room reviewing it all while she made dinner. Her kids did homework at the other end of the table. Normal family sounds, dishes clattering, questions about math problems, the dog barking at something outside. I'd gained back 15 pounds. Was sleeping in Sarah's guest room, eating her cooking, functioning like a human again. The hollow look was fading from my face. This is enough, right? I asked Marianne on the phone that evening. More than enough. But let's keep documenting through next week. The mediation is scheduled for the 13th, day before Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was looking for Tommy's tablet the following Saturday. He'd left it at a friend's house, and I was checking his room to make sure before driving over. Found an old iPhone instead, one I'd given him months ago for games. It was charged, sitting on his nightstand. I picked it up, opened it to check his apps. The voice memos icon showed 7 recordings. I clicked on the third one. Date stamped January 10th, a Tuesday. Tommy's voice. Mom, why can't I tell Dad about Mr. Derek? Then Linda. Because this is between you and me, baby. Sometimes daddies get upset about things they don't understand. My hands started shaking. Mr. Derek is Mommy's friend. That's all Dad needs to know. Can you keep our secret? Just you and me? Tommy, uncertain. But secrets are bad. Teacher says, some secrets are special secrets. Private things? If you love Mommy, you'll keep this private. Background noise. A male voice. Linda, is he... It's fine. He won't say anything. Will you, sweetie? Tommy, small and scared. Okay. The recording ended. I played it again, then again, sat there on Tommy's bed with my head in my hands. She'd used him. Coached our 7-year-old son to lie to me, taught him that love meant keeping secrets that made him uncomfortable. I called Sarah. She came over immediately, listened to the recording in my truck so Linda wouldn't hear. That's parental alienation, she said, voice shaking with rage. That's using a child to facilitate adultery. A judge is going to crucify her. Marianne agreed when we played it for her. This might be the most important piece of evidence we have. It shows she knowingly involved your son in deception, coached him to lie to his father. The custody fight just became much simpler. The night before the mediation, Sarah stayed over, cooked dinner for me and Tommy. After Tommy went to bed, we sat at her kitchen table, reviewing everything one more time. You ready? She asked. I don't know. Dad, you've done everything right. You waited. You documented. You didn't blow up, didn't confront her, didn't give her warning. You played it smart. I just kept quiet because I didn't know what else to do. That's what made it smart. She squeezed my hand. Patience isn't weakness. You're going to walk into that conference room tomorrow with proof she can't deny. Her attorney is going to take one look at this evidence and tell her to settle. What if she fights anyway? Then we go to trial, and we win there too. Sarah's voice was steel. But she won't fight. She can't. Not against this. I looked at the evidence binder on the table. Edna's calendar. The PI's photos. Bank records. Phone logs. Tommy's recording. Derek's pattern with his ex-wives. The quitclaim deed photos. 6 months of my life. Documented and organized. Proof of betrayal. Calculation. Theft. Tomorrow, Linda would see all of it. Tomorrow, she'd realize I hadn't been weak. Hadn't been broken. I'd been building a case. February 13th, 2 in the afternoon. Marianne's conference room above the hardware store. I sat at the long table with Sarah on my right, Marianne on my left. The process server stood in the corner by the window, manila envelope in hand. The room smelled like coffee and old wood. My hands were steady on the table. At 2:05, Linda walked in. She'd dressed nice, blazer and slacks, hair done, makeup fresh. She looked around the room, saw me, saw Sarah, saw Marianne. Confusion crossed her face. Where's the counselor? Marianne stood. Mrs. Sullivan, please sit down. Linda stayed in the doorway. I don't understand. Frank, what is this? Sit down, Linda. My voice was calm, calmer than I'd expected. She sat across from me, her purse in her lap, hands gripping it. This is not marriage counseling. Marianne said. This is divorce mediation. What? Linda's voice went high. No, Frank, what is she talking about? I didn't answer. Just looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in months. The process server stepped forward. Mrs. Linda Sullivan? Yes. He set the envelope in front of her. You've been served. Linda opened it with shaking hands, pulled out the papers. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Her eyes scanned the first page. Then she looked up at me. Frank, you can't be serious. Keep reading, Marianne said. Linda's face went pale as she read, then read. This says you want the house. Full custody of Tommy, that I pay child support. She looked up. This is insane. Mrs. Sullivan, perhaps you should review why we're seeking those terms. Frank, please. And Linda's eyes were wet now. Can we talk? Alone? Just the two of us? No, I said. Whatever you need to say it here. I don't understand why you're doing this. When a tear rolled down her cheek. I love you. We can work this out. We just need Mrs. Sullivan, Marianne interrupted. Perhaps because you've been having an affair with Derek Chen for the past 6 months. Linda's mouth opened, closed. Who told you that? Multiple witnesses, Marianne said. She opened the evidence binder. Let's start with documentation. Edna's calendar pages came out first. Marianne laid them across the table. Your neighbor, Mrs. Morrison, documented 24 visits from a silver Lexus to your home every Tuesday evening from August through January. 7:15 arrival, 9 o'clock departure. The same 2 hours your husband was at his weekly lodge meeting. Linda stared at the pages. She was spying on me? She was witnessing, Marianne corrected. There's a difference. Next came the surveillance photos. Torrens had done good work. Derek entering through our back door. Timestamps, 5 different Tuesdays. One showed Linda and Derek visible through the kitchen window, laughing. You hired someone to follow me? Linda's voice rose. That's invasive. It's legal, Marianne said. And it's evidence. The bank records came next. Linda's secret credit card. Every charge laid out. Hotels, restaurants, the jewelry store on Maple Street. These charges were paid by Derek Chen, $12,000 over 8 months. Care to explain that? Linda's face was red now, splotchy. Derek was helping me. I was going to pay him back. With what? Sarah spoke for the first time. Dad's money? Marianne didn't wait for an answer. She pulled out the next set of papers. Let's discuss the quitclaim deed documents found in your vehicle. Draft papers adding your name to Mr. Sullivan's inherited property, the house his father left him. The house you have no legal claim to. That was for estate planning, Linda's voice cracked. In case something happened to Frank. Estate planning facilitated by your affair partner, who happens to be a mortgage broker. Marianne's voice was cold. A mortgage broker with a documented pattern of targeting older married women with property. Would you like to see his divorce records? Both ex-wives tell similar stories. Linda's face went white. Derek loves me. It's not like that. Derek is still married, Marianne said. His wife is filing for divorce today, as we speak. The color drained completely from Linda's face. His wife? You didn't know? I spoke quietly. Almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Marianne pulled out her phone. Let's listen to something. Tommy's voice filled the room. Small, innocent. Mom, why can't I tell Dad about Mr. Derek? Linda's hand went to her mouth. Because this is between you and me, baby. Sometimes daddies get upset about things they don't understand. And I watched Linda's face as she listened to herself. Coaching our son, teaching him to lie. Mr. Derek is Mommy's friend. That's all Dad needs to know. Can you keep our secret? Just you and me. The recording played through. Linda coaching Tommy to keep secrets. Linda laughing with Derek about how trusting I was, how easy it was. When it ended, the room was silent. You used our son, I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. You taught him to lie to me. Made him an accomplice in your affair. I was protecting him. You were protecting yourself. Sarah's voice cut like a blade. You used a 7-year-old child as cover for adultery. Marianne closed the binder. Mrs. Sullivan, let me be clear about your legal situation. Adultery is grounds for divorce in this state. Financial deception, attempting to gain property through fraud, supports denial of any spousal maintenance. And parental alienation, using your child to facilitate an affair, will cost you custody. I was lonely. Linda's voice broke. Frank never paid attention to me. He was always working, always at that damn lodge. I felt invisible. Your feelings don't justify fraud, Marianne said, or using your child as an accessory to adultery. Frank, Linda looked at me, tears streaming. Please, I made mistakes. But we can fix this. We have Tommy to think about. We can go to counseling, real counseling. No, I said. Please. You tried to steal my father's house. You coached my son to lie to me. You made me think I was losing my mind, while you planned to take everything I'd worked for. My voice stayed level. There's nothing to fix. Linda stood up. I'll fight this. I'll fight you in court. Marianne didn't even look up. With this evidence, any attorney you consult will advise immediate settlement. Going to trial will only expose you publicly and cost you more. Derek will help me. Derek's employer received notice this morning of professional ethics violations. Having an affair with the client's wife. Coaching property fraud. He's been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Marianne finally looked up. Derek has his own problems now. He can't help you. Linda grabbed her purse, stood there shaking, mascara running down her face. You bastard. You planned this whole thing. I documented what you did, I said. That's all. You're taking everything from me. Sarah stood. You were trying to take everything from him. The difference is he actually earned it. Linda looked at each of us. Then at the evidence spread across the table. The calendar, the photos, the recordings, her lies made visible. She walked to the door, stopped. I won't sign. Then we'll see you in court, Marianne said, where your recording will be played publicly, where your son will testify, where the entire town will learn exactly what you've done. Linda left. The door slammed. Her heels echoed in the hallway. The room was quiet. I could hear traffic from the street below, the coffee pot gurgling in the corner. Marianne gathered the papers. She'll sign within a week. Her attorney will tell her she has no choice. What if she doesn't? My voice sounded far away. Then we go to trial, and we destroy her. Marianne's voice softened. But she will, Frank. She knows she's beaten. I sat there with my hands on the table. They were trembling now. All the adrenaline draining away, leaving just exhaustion. Sarah put her hand on my shoulder. You okay? I won, right? Completely. Then why doesn't it feel better? Because you're a good man, she said quietly. You didn't want to destroy her. You just wanted the truth. We sat there a while longer. Then I stood up. My legs felt weak, but they held. I'd won. The house was mine. Tommy was protected. My dignity was intact. But my marriage was over. 8 years gone. And I was 64 years old, 25 pounds lighter, and so tired I could barely stand. Victory felt different than I'd imagined. It felt like survival. Marianne called a week later. I was at Sarah's house, helping her kids with their science project, building a volcano out of paper mache and baking soda. She signed, Marianne said. All terms accepted. Divorce will be final in 60 days, but it's over. I sat down at the kitchen table. Sarah looked at me, eyebrows raised. It's done, I told her. She closed her eyes, nodded, came over and hugged me. The final terms were exactly what we'd asked for. I kept the house, sole ownership, all equity, primary custody of Tommy, 80-20 split. Linda got supervised visits, 2 weekends a month. She'd pay $400 child support. My retirement account stayed mine, untouched. No spousal maintenance. She was responsible for her credit card debts, all $15,000 of it. Linda moved out the following weekend. I wasn't there. Took Tommy to Sarah's, let Linda pack her things in peace. When we came home, the guest room was empty. Half the kitchen was bare. She'd taken the good mixer, most of the dishes, things that didn't really matter. Her key was on the counter. Tommy looked around the house. Is Mom coming back? Nobody. Mom's gonna live somewhere else now. But you'll still see her. Just different. He nodded, didn't cry, just went to his room and played with his toys. Kids are more resilient than you think. Torrance called the next day with updates on Derek. His wife filed the day of your mediation. She's taking everything, the house, his retirement, spousal support. The bank completed their investigation. He's been terminated. Ethics violations, pattern of misconduct. And his mortgage broker license is under review by the state board. Where is he now? Moved out of state from what I hear. Indiana to somewhere down south. Heard he's working retail. Can't get licensed anywhere else with that record. The predator had been stopped, at least for now. Linda, according to Sarah's discreet inquiries, had moved into an apartment near Derek's old complex. Different building, though. Derek couldn't help her anymore. His wife had cleaned him out. Linda was working full-time again at the dental office, trying to pay off her debts and child support. The church gossip network had spread the truth eventually. Small towns work like that. Mrs. Patterson heard from someone who heard from someone else. The recording had been mentioned in preliminary court filings. Public record, Linda didn't come to church anymore. Tommy and I settled into new routines. I moved back into my house, into my own bed. Tommy's room was down the hall, and I read him stories every night like I used to. Breakfast together at the kitchen table. Cereal, toast, nothing fancy, school drop-off. Work at Eddie's shop, where I'd gotten my energy back. Home for dinner. Sarah came by 3 nights a week with her family. Her kids and Tommy played in the living room, noise and laughter filling spaces that had been quiet too long. We'd cook together, easy meals and conversation. Game nights with cards and board games. One evening, Tommy looked up from his homework. "Dad? Yeah, buddy? I like this better." "Well, better than what?" "Than before. Mom was always on her phone. You actually play with me." It broke my heart a little. Made me grateful, too. The first Sunday I went back to church was mid-February, cold but sunny. I walked in with Tommy, took our usual spot. Third pew. Mrs. Patterson saw me during the coffee hour. She walked over, face serious. "Frank, I owe you an apology." "You don't?" "Yes, I do." She touched my arm. "We believed what we saw. Linda seemed so concerned, so devoted. We didn't know. We should have trusted that you're a good man. Should have known there was more to the story." People see what they want to see. Still, I'm sorry. She squeezed my arm. "You're in our prayers." The real kind, not the gossip kind. Bill Henderson shook my hand after that. Firm grip, eye contact. "Good to see you, Frank. Really good." The congregation had shifted. Not all at once, but enough. People nodded to me, smiled. The pity looks were gone, replaced with respect. Small-town justice works slow, but it works. The first warm Saturday came in early March. 52 degrees, sun bright, snow melting into mud. I could smell the earth thawing. Tommy found me in the garage. "Dad, can we plant something?" "Like what?" "I don't know. Flowers." I looked at the backyard. The old vegetable garden plot, dormant and waiting. My father had taught me to plant peas in March, first thing after the thaw. He'd learned it from his father. "Come on," I said. "I'll show you." We got the hand tools from the shed. I tilled the soil while Tommy watched, asking questions. The dirt was cold and wet, but workable. "Rich and dark. What are we planting?" "Peas. They're patient plants. Don't mind the cold. Your grandpa taught me this when I was 9, right here in this same spot." Tommy's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really. Now watch. You plant them about an inch deep. Space them 2 inches apart so they have room to grow." I showed him with the first few seeds, then handed him the packet. "You try." Tommy dropped seeds in the furrow, concentrating hard. Some went crooked. I gently adjusted them. "Like this, Dad?" "Perfect, buddy. Just like that." Across the street, Edna Morrison came walking over, slow on her arthritic legs, but smiling. "Need an extra hand?" she called. "Always, Edna." She couldn't kneel to plant. Her joints wouldn't allow it. But she stood there watching, offering commentary, telling Tommy about how his grandfather used to plant the biggest tomatoes she'd ever seen. When the peas were in, I watered them gently. Tommy helped hold the hose. "When will they grow?" "Couple weeks. Peas are patient. They wait for the right conditions, then they grow strong." We sat on the porch steps after, me, Tommy, Edna, 3 people who didn't match any picture of family you'd see in a magazine. But family, nonetheless. Edna had brought lemonade in old ball jars, condensation cold on the glass despite her twisted hands. We sipped it in the spring sun. First robin of the season sang from the oak tree in the backyard. "Dad?" Tommy set down his jar. "Yeah, buddy." "Can we still do Christmas lights next year?" I paused. Thought about Christmas lights and traditions and the future, stretching out ahead. Thought about Tommy's question and what it meant, that he trusted there would be a next year, a next Christmas, that life would continue, and we'd be okay. "Yes," I said, we'll do Christmas lights." Just us?" "Us and whoever wants to help." I looked at Edna. "You game?" She smiled, those arthritic hands cradling her lemonade. "I'll hand you bulbs." These old hands still work for that. Tommy leaned against me, satisfied. The sun warmed us. The garden sat quiet, seeds invisible beneath the soil, waiting. This wasn't the life I'd imagined at 64. Second marriage was supposed to be the final chapter, the reward for surviving loss and raising a daughter alone. Supposed to be easy. But this. Tommy beside me, Sarah coming by 3 times a week, Edna crossing the street with lemonade, seeds in the ground waiting for spring. This was solid. Real in a way that Linda's performance never had been. I'd lost a wife. But I'd kept my father's house, kept my son, kept my dignity. And I'd learned something. Family isn't always who you marry or who shares your blood. Sometimes it's who shows up, who documents the truth when it's hard, who hires investigators and lawyers, who brings lemonade on the first warm day. The 3 of us sat there on my porch, chosen family, not traditional, but faithful, and watched the afternoon sun angle lower. Tomorrow, I'd wake up in my own bed, in my father's house, with my son down the hall and my dignity intact. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. There's something about the sound of dirt under your fingernails, something honest. My father used to say, you could judge a man's character by whether he was willing to get his hands dirty when it mattered. I spent 8 years with Linda, built a life I thought was solid. It turned out I'd been building on sand, pretty to look at, but it couldn't hold weight. When the storms came, everything washed away, except what was already mine, my father's house, my son, my name. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry, if I hate her for what she did. Truth is, I'm mostly tired, and maybe a little wiser about the difference between what looks good and what is good. Linda looked good, the devoted wife at Christmas, the concerned spouse at church. But Edna, with her twisted hands and her spiral notebook, documenting truth when it cost her comfort, that was good. Sarah, paying for lawyers and investigators with the insurance money from her mother's death, that was good. Some victories only have the sound of paper shuffling. Divorce decrees and quitclaim deeds and spiral notebooks filled with dates, not exciting. Not the stuff of movies, but real and lasting and enough. I learned that silence doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes the quietest man in the room is just waiting, watching, building his case brick by brick while louder people assume he's defeated. There's power in patience when you know what you're waiting for. And I learned about family. Not the kind you marry into, or the kind that shares your blood by accident of birth. The kind that shows up, that crosses the street with evidence, that moves into your workshop at 2 a.m., that brings lemonade on the first warm day and says, I'll hand you the bulbs. Tommy's learning to plant peas now. Same garden my father taught me in. Same lesson passing down. Put seeds in cold ground, wait for spring, trust that growth will come. It's a kind of faith, I suppose. Not the church kind, though that has its place. The dirt under your fingernails kind. The kind that says, tomorrow's worth planting for. The sun's getting lower now. Golden light slanting across the porch, across the three of us sitting here with our lemonade. A robin sings from somewhere I can't see. The seeds are in the ground, invisible and waiting. Life after 64 isn't what I imagined. But it's solid, it's real, it's mine. And when Tommy asks about Christmas lights, when he assumes next year and the year after, when he looks at me and sees a future worth building toward, that's when I know I survived the winter. Spring's coming, and that's enough.